I hope you have a quiet and joyful afternoon here learning about stupas. This is the third time I've come to Eugene now on invitation of the Bodhipath Center, and the second time I teach here at the University of Oregon. And it's very nice of Alan to host and organize this event with the Department of Art History. And I do hope that all of you will get something out of this talk. My background is in Buddhist studies and meditation training. I used to be a Buddhist monk for 10 years and spent almost 7 years only in meditation retreat. So the approach I'm going to take here on this lecture for Stupas is to give you also a little bit of an understanding of what it stands for. Why is it a symbol for enlightened mind? And what do we understand under enlightened mind? The reason why I first gave a talk on stupas, I gave a talk on stupas in Santa Barbara last year, was because there is wishes to build a large stupa in California within the next couple of years, and a stupa of reconciliation, as it is called, in order to bring some harmony to the area. And I will explain more about that a little bit later in the talk. And since then I've had many requests to talk more about stupas, as it seems to be something that many people are interested in to find out more about. I have to admit right from the start, I'm not as good as Al Gore is at this. So, but we're lucky that what we're going to talk about is a little bit more convenient than what he had to say. But bear with me, yeah. I have my defects, but I hope you will enjoy what you get to learn. Whenever we come in contact with teachings that have to do with the Buddha, then it's helpful to think a moment why we're here, what do we hope to get out of this, and because these teachings are linked with our personal development, with the opening of our mind, the development of our being. And so we have the chance here to develop the motivation that actually by what we hear today and what we learn, that we ourselves can develop so as to be of more help to others. And so I want to mention that and give you that opportunity. A little bit something about the life of the Buddha. The Buddha was born in Lumbini, which is in northeastern India, actually just behind the border of Nepal. And he was born, let's say most scholars agree on the fact that he was born around the year of 563 BC. And he lived for 80 years, all the way to 483. And taught 44 years of those 80 years. He was born as the son of a local ruler and grew up in a rather, you can say, in very fortunate economic circumstances. And only later in his life, by the time he was 29, actually decided to leave his home and pursue a spiritual path with all, investing all his time and effort. By that time, he had been married for 13 years, and he had a son by the name of Rahula, who he left behind at that time. Nevertheless, beforehand, making the commitment and the promise to his family that once he had found the answers to his quest, he would return and teach everybody. Because the reason or the motivation for his quest actually was to be able to truly protect beings from the sufferings that they have to undergo in the cycle of existence, meaning the birth, old age, sickness, and death. So these were the issues that Siddhartha Gautama, as he was called before he became Buddha Shakyamuni, was very much concerned about, and why he set out on his path to discover a solution to that problem. He practiced 6 years of asceticism and studied with the greatest masters of his time in India, learned what they had to teach, accomplished what they had to teach, and nevertheless felt dissatisfied with what he had achieved under their guidance. So he continued on his own, and he continued with 5 friends who were all like him, ascetics, and they practiced asceticism on the borders of the river Naranjana in India, to the point that Siddhartha Gautama realized that asceticism would also not bring the result he had been looking for. And he then started to again balance his life. He started to eat, get more rest, drink more, and was abandoned by his ascetic friends for someone who had left the path. But he continued on his own, trusting that he would eventually succeed. And then later, at the age of 35, in Bodh Gaya, had an experience that now we refer to as awakening or enlightenment. Now, what happened to him was that as he was sitting in Bodh Gaya, he remembered a time when he was a young boy, at the age of 8, where he was sitting under a tree watching his father plow the field to open the agricultural season, and he had a moment where he felt everything was at its right place. A very natural, clear state of mind and a complete contentment. And this moment he remembered later, at the age of 35, sitting under the tree, and that gave him everything he needed to know as to how to place his mind in meditation. And 3 weeks later he became enlightened. He then taught for 44 years throughout India, and became known as Buddha Shakyamuni. Shakya is the family clan that he was from, the Shakyas. And Muni means lion or mighty one. So the mighty one of the Shakyas. A Buddha is a Sanskrit word that means to awaken. So that's why we refer to him in English as the awakened one. At the age of 80, he experienced what is called the parinirvana, which is leaving, when an enlightened being leaves the physical body. And this was in a town of Kushinagar, also in northeastern India. And I mentioned this because when we talk about stupas and we want to know the Buddha's influence on these monuments, then this all starts at the time of the Buddha's passing. So what do we know about a stupa? When we look today in the dictionary, we'll find that a stupa is basically a Buddhist monument or an architectural structure that is found across the Asian continent, subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent, all throughout Eastern Asia, and more in Europe and also in the United States. It is known as chedi in Pali, pagoda in Pali as well. In Sri Lanka it is known as dagoba. In Tibet as cherten. I will say more about what that means a little bit later.